Hi, I'm Brock McCardle. I'm a wildlife officer for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I cover, my home district is GMU, or Game Management Unit 7, the middle and northern portion of Unit 8, and the middle and northern portion of Unit 191. With those units, there's a lot of different hunting opportunities that present themselves during the hunting seasons for hunters in those areas. We'll focus today on what most people are looking at in those areas as far as big game goes and access and so forth, and that is deer and elk. Unit 7 is, I have the entire unit of Unit 7, and that is a unit that probably about half of that area is a wilderness area, the Raywall Wilderness, and probably the other portion of it, the northern portion, would be national forest. So mostly all public land in that unit. And there are definitely elk and deer hunting opportunities over there in Unit 7. But in those units, the elevation, in Unit 7, the elevation is a little bit higher. So you're going to be finding the elk and deer in general during the earlier seasons, especially in the wilderness area. If you go and you want to hunt the Raywall Wilderness in Unit 7, it's going to be probably to get access, oftentimes 2, 3 to 6 or 7 mile hike in. So I always recommend that hunters just be aware of their surroundings and also be prepared for a long hike and maybe a camp where you can keep all your equipment and gear stored while you're out hunting. But in Unit 7, the elk are going to be up high above tree line, to tree line during the archery season, and potentially during some of the muzzleloader season, unless we get a winter storm that comes in earlier in the fall. And same with the deer, they're going to be up around tree line. Now, if we get a snow that comes in, significant snowfall, like a foot or so up in the higher, then the animals will start pushing down, elk and deer included, and they'll go down into some of the lower elevation properties. There are actually some, a little bit of public property on the North Middle Mountain, which is on the Unit 7 side of things, which is the eastern edge of Unit 7. So a lot of animals will actually come down from the Raywalls, head east, and cross over by the town of Glendive and on to upper or North Middle Mountain, which a lot of that property up there on the mountain is public. Other opportunities and progresses in Unit 7 for elk. The animals tend to, as the winter comes on and as the fall along and the winter conditions move on, the animals are going to gradually move north. Unit 7, they're going to move north along the Lamer River Valley, and eventually by 4th rifle season, you may find them almost as far north as the Wyoming state line. And, up there, you're looking at 10,000 feet in elevation, pretty heavy lodgepole pine, some tougher areas to hunt, but the elk and deer are up there during the archery season, muzzleloader, and probably even into first rifle. But as you get some snowfalls and the weather pushes them out, they're going to move down as well. They move the same direction north as 7 animals and move up toward the Wyoming state line as well. And some of the areas that they'll be at during the later seasons up there would be the northern portion of Unit 8, and that is the Bull Mountain area, which if you look on a map, a lot of that is public, BLM, and U.S. Forest Service. There's some private as well up there. But the Bull Mountain area and Boulder Ridge area is where you're going to find the elk and probably some deer during the 3rd and 4th rifle seasons. Now moving on to Unit 191, that elevation in 191 is lower than Unit 7 and lower than Unit 8. We're looking at a range from the Red Feather area east of Red Feather, it drops down lower, but the highest elevation in Unit 191 is probably going to be around 9,000 feet. As you move east in the unit, it's going to drop down to probably around 6,500 feet. And the majority of the hunting opportunities in 191, as far as public goes, is going to be the Cherokee State Wildlife Area, the lower unit and Lone Pine unit of that area. And that will hold quite a few deer. During the archery season as well, there's a resident population of deer that will be there during the archery season and muzzleloader on the Cherokee State Wildlife Area. But as the seasons progress, once you get into 3rd, 4th rifle, the wildlife area tends to hold more deer in 191 in that area. If you're looking for elk in 191, there will be a little bit of elk, and they're in smaller herds than what you're going to find in Unit 7 and 8, but you'll have herds maybe 10 or so potentially that you could find on even the State Wildlife Area on the lower unit, but most of those will be more back toward the western boundary of the Cherokee State Wildlife Area, and even points back to the west on the U.S. Forest Service, which is still in 191. But that's where most of the elk will be at. 191 is not a unit where you're going to find a lot of elk, but there is a few resident like I say, that you will get into and can potentially find during all the seasons. Other than that, I'll touch upon the pronghorn briefly. The pronghorn hunting in my there's some opportunity, but the majority of the pronghorn will be on private. And most public hunters that do find public to hunt, they will be Unit 7, GMU Unit 7. And they will be hunting the north end of that, where those two units come together toward the Wyoming state line. There's some BLM properties up there off, it would be west of the Lemmer River area. So there are some pronghorn hunters there that do access some pronghorn, but the majority of the animals, probably 90% of the pronghorn in my district, will be on private.